Just three ordinary guys trying to understand the crazy world around them. We don't have all the answers, but we've got all the questions. You're listening to Just Add Bourbon with Jimmy, JD, and Brad.
Welcome, everybody, to the Just Add Bourbon podcast. I am Jimmy Don Kerr.
I'm Brad Broaddus.
And I'm JD Denver.
And it is another beautiful Sunday evening here in the hills of eastern Kentucky. Guys, we got all kinds of... The news has been crazy this week. There's all kinds of good stuff to talk about. But before we jump into the big topics, there's a couple things I need to go over. Number one, it's the first show of the new year. It's our first show for 2020. I know, we've gotten all sappy on the last two shows and talked about how much we loved each other and looking forward to going forward in the year 2020. But this is the first one for 2020. I know we've got a lot of cool stuff planned going forward. We're going to finish out the opioid crisis series, and then I think we're going to jump into a little Martin County water series. I'm pretty excited about that. But something came to my mind as we prepping for the show today, and it was what my New Year's Eve was like this year versus what my New Year's Eves used to be like. Now, as a younger man, I had some pretty epic New Year's Eves, okay? Like New York City, end up in a dumpster at 6 a.m., epic New Year's Eves. This New Year's Eve, I had 15 preteen, teenage girls at my house, and we did a scavenger hunt through the city of Inez, which I'll be glad to report my team won. And I did my part of the scavenger hunt with my sister, my two nephews, Brad's children, and Addison and her group of friends. And we scoured the city of Inez doing scavenger hunt things. And Brad, I hate to tell you that I forced your sons to break into the high school football field to count the bleachers.
Nice. So
I was just interested what your all's New Year's Eves were like, because mine was completely different. Maybe it was wilder than it was ever, in the past. I don't know. But what did you boys get into on New Year's Eve?
Well, I just wanted to go ahead and say that my daughter told me that the scavenger hunt was rigged. Jimmy Don had everything working in his favor, and Granddad's team should have won.
Yeah, all lies. Your daughter lies. I hate to say that, JD, because I love Haley, but she lies. My squad was awesome. We were in a minivan. Killed it.
But my New Year's Eve, man, I ended up going out. And you're not going to believe this, but I got drunk.
What?
Yeah, I did. I didn't feel good, though, so I ended up missing the first day of work. January 1st, I got a vacation day, and I was like, all right, boys, I got to use my vacation day because I can't make it in. I woke up at 6 o'clock, drove down the road, and I was like, can't get away like this. So I turned around and came home. And so I had a good New Year's Eve, though. It was a good time.
I got a little time to myself because the wife and my boys were with Jimmy Don for a couple hours. And I hung out at the house. And then when they got home, that's when it got real crazy.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. We sat there until midnight. And my 7-year-old said he was going to stay up, take in the new year. He fell asleep about 11:15. We couldn't even wake him up at 12. And then the ball dropped. We went to bed. So pretty wild times at the Broaddus house.
I had big plans. Like I was going to, we've got, Brad and I have been old tree branches. We had a tree fall, cut up, and we piled it up. And we were going to have a big bonfire. I thought, well, that'd be fun. Have a bonfire. Me and Brad can sneak out there and drink a few beers at the bonfire. And, have a New Year's Eve. And Amy shut that down with the quickness. Shut me down. So, and the other thing about New Year's Eve, the start of that day was Kentucky. Kentucky had their bowl game that day. And I have to talk about it because there's not anybody, maybe you guys are as happy as I am, but I was tickled to death that Kentucky won that game. Lynn Bowden cemented himself as a living legend. Mark Stoops can coach Kentucky football as long as he wants, in my opinion. We literally, the first day of 2019, we win the Citrus Bowl and beat Penn State. The last day of 2019, we win the Belk Bowl and another 8-win season.
And beat a good Virginia Tech team.
And beat Virginia Tech, dude, who's a name program. And we were the type of team that you could line it up. You knew exactly what we were going to do. You couldn't stop us. Lynn Bowden, a legend, running the ball all day long. And how does he win the ball game? Calls an audible at the line and throws a pass for a touchdown. Unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, I'm the football guy. Like, I love football. And it goes back. I mean, we like all these high-profile offenses. You know, they're throwing the ball all over the field and all these trick plays. But when it comes down to it, football's not changed that much. If you can play good defense and run the football, you can beat anybody.
Jay, how is it possible to know? I mean, everybody in the place knows that we're going to run the football. Is it the fact that, number one, Lynn Bowden is a special talent. It's probably one of the best players to ever lace him up at Kentucky. But number two, our offensive line, which is now lovingly known as the Big Blue Wall, I mean, were they just that good? I mean, is that the deal?
Well, it's not only the offensive line. I know that's where everybody points to. But if you'll watch some of Lynn Bowden's longer runs, and we always have this saying, you know, around football programs, there are no big runs without good downfield blocking. So it comes down to your wide receivers, your tight ends, and all these people knowing their job and doing it.
And they had to really buy in, right? Because
you got to buy in. Because you knew this year at Kentucky, if you was a wide receiver, you weren't going to catch many touchdown passes. But you got to be a we guy, not a me guy. You got to be worried about the name across the front of your jersey and not the one in the back. And I think Mark Stoops and Vince Morrow are two guys that really pushed that ideal forward, and these guys just bought into it. And like you said, you know, we had some people jump onto the, you know, fired Mark Stoops bandwagon earlier this year, and those guys can go get bent because Mark Stoops, an amazing football coach.
Absolutely. I mean, to take that, literally our first, second, third, and fourth string quarterbacks got hurt. And we had to take a wide receiver and make him the quarterback and ended up winning 8 games. He went 6-2 as the starting quarterback.
Now I'll give you these two options right now, you guys, both of you in this room. We can go back to the exciting passing games of how many, where we won 3 or 4 ball games a year, or we can run the ball 40 times a game and win 8 games. Which one do you want?
Oh, my God. I love smash mouth football.
It's not even the close. I mean, right? Like, I want to win. That's what I want to do. I don't care how – we don't get style points.
And with this recruiting class that we've got coming in this year.
Oh, man.
And with what we've got returning.
But this goes back to what I said before. We got some guys in-house, this coaching staff, that's going to take these recruits and develop them, man. I mean, Josh Allen coming out of high school was a 2 or 3-star guy.
He was a 1-star dude. And Taylor Jr. was a 1-star.
Josh Allen's, you know, doing pretty good last time I checked in the NFL.
I think he's going to end up getting Rookie of the Year. He's leading the league in sacks.
So, I mean, especially when you got a good coach. And now we need to go ahead and give our athletic director, Mitch Barnhart, who has shown the propensity to find good coaches and let them implement their plan with their guys. And so kudos to him. He's been under a lot of fire for a lot of things. I know the Billy Gillespie hire, stuff like that, he just missed. I mean, he's human. He's going to miss. But this hire, Mark Stoops, 5-6 years ago, home run.
One thing I thought about watching the game, because, you know, you hear about the line and these different things of you know, how well Bowden's done and whatever, but the one thing I thought about was the wide receivers. I mean, you talk about a sacrifice. Imagine you go to college, you're thinking, okay, I'm an elite. Even if you're a 2 or 3 star or whatever you come in, you're good enough to play in college, and you think, well, you know, my goal, I'm going to try to get the ball 5 to 10 times a game. Well, they're out there knowing that they may throw 3 to 5 passes a game. So the entire game, you're going to be out there blocking, and they kept doing it. They went after it every play. I mean, you look at how many times, like JD was saying, you know, blocking downfield, and you've got these receivers out there blocking, and you're out there, you know, from kickoff, there's a good chance that I'm not going to get a ball thrown my way for 4 quarters.
And I mean, to watch these UK receivers block, I mean, I'm telling you, like, I'm sure a lot of people didn't even pick up on it, but I always watched. I mean, these guys were out there scrapping, man. They weren't just blocking; they was fighting you. And Lynn Bowden's first long run, he broke in the belt bow. One of the wide receivers down there looked like the killing the cornerback was fist fighting, but he was just blocking his hind end and putting him in the sideline. It's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, it was unbelievable, man. I said in our defense too at the beginning of the year, that is what everybody said. Oh, you know, we lost our whole secondary to the NFL. Right. I said, and we had one of the best defenses in the country. They hadn't been. I think there wasn't a touchdown pass thrown on them like the last 7-8 games of the year. I mean, Louisville threw 1, but it was limited on how many touchdown passes were actually thrown in our secondary. And our defense, now, Virginia Tech ran through them a bit. in that game. That was as far as giving up yards, they gave up more yards in that game than I had seen them give up. But when it came down to crunch time and they had to make the stop, they stopped them on that last drive, and then we go on an 8-minute, 50-second, 85-yard drive to win the ballgame. It's insane.
Well, you've asked me before, and was it last week or maybe the week before, about defense, what's the key to defense? And I told you alignment, right? So if you've got a young secondary, a lot of times you're going to have misalignments. And, once you get those things cleaned up, those are coachable skills. You know what I'm saying? Like I can teach you to line up. But the recruits we're getting now, if you want to run and you want to run and play football in the SEC, you got to have horses. And we look at this Kentucky team now, man, and it definitely passes the eye test. And the guys we've got coming in, the horses we got coming in, I'm excited about the future of Kentucky football.
Well, and you go with the woulda, coulda, shoulda,
Sure.
But you think about if Bowden had started the South Carolina and Mississippi State games, we probably win those games.
Well, what if Wilson doesn't even get hurt, though, man?
Right. I mean, look, really, we only legitimately, as far as looking back, Mississippi State and South Carolina both beat us. And Tennessee and Florida beat us. Tennessee was one play away. Florida was basically one play away. If Bowden starts those games, we probably beat Mississippi State and Tennessee and South Carolina. Georgia's the only team that really probably would have beat us. We could have won 11
Georgia's pretty
games.
good.
Yeah, Georgia ain't bad. So, all right. So, I couldn't help it. I'm sorry, everybody listening. I had to talk about that because I've been so excited about the Kentucky
I'm not sorry at all.
season. Oh, my goodness. That is, like I've said it on here before and I've told you guys. I've had season tickets for 20-plus years. I've seen us get beat every way imaginable. And I called, Clayton, my best friend who I go to the games with. I said, is this real? Did that just happen? Did we just beat Virginia Tech and then just beat Penn State? We won 10 games last year, 8 games this year. Is this really Kentucky football? And it is. And I think this is Kentucky football. We're set up for 4 to 5 good years. We got a program.
One last thing before we switch subjects. I don't think people understand. We went to the Belt Bowl. We went to what bowl did we go to last year? Citrus Bowl, which was a big bowl.
The same game that Alabama played in this year.
Right. Those aren't small bowls, but they're not the Fiesta Bowl. They're not the national championship game. But I think we need to understand and point out how important it is for teams like Kentucky, who aren't traditionally these powerhouse teams, to get these extra 3-4 weeks of practice every year. And when you start going to bowl games consistently, you're getting so much more practice time. The guys on the depth charts are now getting first-team reps for a couple of weeks and so the coaching staff's identifying, who's players and who's not. It's a very important thing. But
yeah, no, like I said, man, I was so excited. Sitting there, I was working. I worked at home that day, was watching it, and Amy was gone. I screamed, and the girls were like, "Is everything okay?" I was like, "Yeah, Kentucky just won the belt." But, I don't know. I was fired up. So anyway, all right. So let's get into our topics this week. So the first topic goes back to something we talked about. I don't know. It was probably 5 or 6 shows ago. And when we were kind of talking about genetics and some different things, and we brought up this Chinese doctor who had modified the DNA of 2 or 3 embryos in children that were born. And that guy actually ended up being sentenced to 3 years in jail this past week. So I'll read this just quick from Science Magazine. And who knows how to say this name. He Jiankyu, the Chinese researcher who stunned the world last year by announcing he had helped produce genetically edited babies, has been found guilty of conducting illegal medical practices and sentenced to 3 years in prison. So basically, him and he had 2 co-conspirators who, it says, pled guilty to editing the DNA of these children and these embryos. And based on our discussion and the topic we'll get into next, of these DNA profiles and these different things. Brad, what did you think when did you think anything out of the way? You're like, wow, this guy actually did get sentenced to jail.
Honestly, I was a little surprised that he was sentenced to jail in China. You know what I mean? Just not normally the most humanitarian, the way they go about a lot of things. But this stuff's been going on. If you've been following the CRISPR research, which it actually brought up in that article, and, the CRISPR research allows scientists to change the gene code of plants, animals, and humans. So again, these things are normally, because I know you can have the argument and say, well, if we could change the gene code, if we can do something with the DNA to prevent these diseases or do whatever, I'm sure there's something positive that could be done with it. But are you willing to sacrifice what could be done in the other direction with it? And I just think the whole thing is terrifying. But the way that stuff is normally put into the public is it's wrapped with a pretty little bow, and this is the positive that can be done with it. But I mean, you're talking about changing the DNA of babies.
Yeah, so we talked about this, like you said, 5 or 6 shows ago, and we talked about watching Unnatural Selection, the documentary on Netflix. And I don't know if you guys end up watching it all, but I watched all of it. And it's just unreal, the unintended consequences that may come about by some of these things. But I'm like you, Brad. I was surprised that this guy got put in prison in China, of all places. They're not exactly the moral compass of the world, some of the things they do. I'm one of these people, and I'm like, maybe you guys are the same way. I still don't know where I come down on this issue. I know there's going to be unintended consequences, but if we can wipe out, malaria, should we do it? I mean, I don't know. I don't know how important the mosquito is in the scheme of things. I don't know. And I'm sure there are people that do, but I'm not one of those people. But I know how we can save a bunch of lives.
There was a movie, I actually came across this movie the other day, and it has to do with this very subject. It's called Gattaca. It's an Ethan Hawke movie, and Uma Thurman's in it too, and that's basically what it's about. They figure out a way to genetically modify the embryos so you get a specific kind of child. But there are also children that are born, people who believe in the natural birth and the natural, the randomness of it, but they split them up by class. It's basically they're class divided. So the people who are genetically coded a certain way get to go to space. That's what the movie's based on. And this guy, Ethan Hawke's character, is a natural born child. And he's basically worked his whole life to get to go to space. And it's crazy. You ought to watch it. I mean, if you've never seen the movie, it's actually pretty good.
I'll let you say something.
What's scary about it is, with the gene things, and you think of what the possibilities are, what they could do with it. I mean, you can just look at history, go back as far as you want to, and what have the elites done since the beginning of time, right? They'll try to fix the gene pool, right? So that's why you'll have this family marry this family, and then they have offspring. And I would say in a lot of cases, it's just an arranged marriage as much as it would be in some of the Middle Eastern cultures, right? So with this technology and the CRISPR technology, where you could actually go in and change DNA to, I don't think only at birth, but actually in creation. I mean, the things they can do with these embryos, if you wanted to create that class, and I don't want to regurgitate what we talked about, in the previous episode, but think about the ramifications. If you can go in and create whatever class, take these genes, I don't know, scary to me. I just think that the consequences, the negative consequences, far outweigh the positives in this case.
Yeah, and you don't really want the elite with the ability to play God, and that's the whole thing, to me anyway.
And that would be that's my main point, is even because I agree with you, JD. If you say, hey, we can come in and we can eradicate these diseases or do this, that sounds positive. But who controls that, and who gets to be the plumb bob for morality in those instances to decide who can get what we can make?
And even deeper than that, though, who gets to decide who decides it? You know what I mean? Like, it's a whole new thing for us.
I can tell you who. Whoever has the most money,
that's right,
gets to decide.
That's right.
So do you trust the people with the most money now deciding to what you have as the peasant, right? So is it going to be any different? Do you think that with billions and billions of dollars involved, do you think that the decision is going to be made in your favor? And you could use that. I know there was something that you had sent the other day. I don't think we had planned on talking about it, but about the baby that was in the hospital.
Yeah.
Right, and there was the thing went to court about what was the deal, JD?
The hospital could decide to take the baby off life support or not, even without the family's permission.
Right, and I think just yesterday, I believe that it was overruled maybe in another court, so they're letting the baby live, at least for now. I know those are two different things, but if you think about, it's the similar type of situation of who gets to make that decision. It's the same thing with healthcare. When you've got money involved and you've got a certain healthcare system, do you think that the people with the money, with the program, are making those decisions, or you think that the individuals are making those decisions? I think it would be the exact same thing when you're dealing with anything DNA related.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you think you're making your health decisions, then you don't know what 21st century healthcare is about, because the insurance company will shut down the surgery right now. And there's not a thing you can do about it. You're at their mercy, right? And, it's a scary thing. I mean, it's a great thing that we have a solution to a lot of these problems, but it's a scary thing of, like I said before, the unintended consequences of those.
Because it really is hard to sit here and say, if there was a way to cure a small child, you could genetically modify their DNA. How can you look those families in the face and say, no, you can't do that, when it would actually save their child's life? And that's the moral dilemma is, you've got these elite people out there who we would all agree there's probably some form of evil in everything, making decisions or getting to play God. But then you sit and look at a family and this is available and you tell them no. Because if I understand right, Brad, that CRISPR technology has actually made it pretty easy. Like it's almost easy to be able to go in and modify it.
Yeah, I mean, they've got the CRISPR technology, the things that they can do now would make it, if you had somebody that had nefarious goals, could do a lot of damage to a population. I mean, all over the world. And so if you think about a lot of the other things that we deal with, as far as whether it be health-related things, I think there are other ways to go about trying to fix some of the health problems as far as some of the things that we eat. I mean, in the same thing, I mean, you look at all the GMO food and things that we eat, right? The genetically modified food. So take the things that have been changed genetically that we ingest now. Has that been a positive or a negative? I'm talking about for our health. I'm not talking about for making more money selling soybeans or corn or whatever. And I think it's just going to be the same thing.
Well, here's the crux of the thing. Here's another dilemma that we get to. We talked about the morals of this situation. Are we going to prevent, right now even at the early stage of this genetic engineering, are we preventing ultra-rich people from doing this? Or are we stopping poor people from doing it and it being available to poor people?
Oh, no, you're probably exactly right. I mean, as far as the elite, if they can get a hold of it, if this technology's there, they've got the money. It's the money talks, man.
So if we don't go forward with it, we're just going to sentence our children to death?
I know, that's what I'm saying. That's the whole moral dilemma, man. That's the crux of the whole thing, and that is a huge moral dilemma. And something else, too, I wanted to bring up, since we talked about the DOD last week, coming out with that memo about the genetic testing company.
Yeah.
JD sent this to me, and I went to the website and looked at it, and this just blows my mind. So we all know what Jenny Craig is, right? The dieting, company. Well, now, and this is from the website. I typed in Jenny Craig, DNA, map, whatever. So I typed this in, and it comes up, and this is on their website. It's like a big thing. DNA decoder plan. Introducing a brand new weight loss plan that's all about you. Unlock everything there is to know about your weight loss DNA profile. Now, we talked about this last week from the standpoint of what was scary about it is they could get your DNA and market it to you. Right there it is, boys. How crazy is that? So, Jenny Craig, a weight loss company, wants to get your DNA profile, and guess what? They're going to sell you a program on how to lose weight based on your DNA profile. That is exactly what we were talking about last week.
I was sitting on that chair right there, and that commercial come on, and I about fell on the floor. I was like, "Are you telling me we need a DNA sample to figure out? Let me fix this for you guys. If you want to lose weight, eat better and exercise more.
Yeah.
Put the ho-hos down and go for a jog. Okay? and it'll fix it. Don't send your DNA to Jenny Craig for no reason at all. I mean, I sent this to Brad, and he's like, "You're becoming one of those conspiracy theorists guys." But I think he just always wanted to say that to somebody.
Yeah, no, Jenny Craig might. I mean, there's obviously, you can check. You can check the DNA for certain things and whatever, and maybe Jenny Craig is doing this to help everybody. I'm not questioning that, maybe a little bit, but it's just the timing. You see these things with the DNA. You see this right at the same time that the Department of Defense is telling people, no, do not send your DNA off to anybody. And now it's popping up. So if you were talking about one way to motivate people to send their DNA, right? It's one thing to get people to send their DNA to find out who their ancestors are. A lot of people are curious about their ancestors, but a big part of the population could not care less about history or the history of their family. What would you say motivates people more than anything right now? What do you, every morning when you get up and look in the mirror, what is the one thing that you would sacrifice a number of things to fix? Is if you thought, I can get in better shape, I can make myself look better. Here's the keys to the kingdom. I just have to send my DNA off. You think that might motivate some people to send their DNA off?
Yes, absolutely.
So again, what is this DNA worth when millions of people send their DNA in? You have all other ways to see who these people are, what they are, how successful they are. You can take all of these things and you could pick and choose and essentially create whatever you want to. Does that sound far out there?
No, it doesn't. And what I think is the point of doing it with Jenny Craig, and you was hitting on it, son, it's a multi-pronged attack, right? We talked about, helping the economic situation in our county, and we said we need a multi-pronged attack, something we can, a facet of areas we can do it with. And so now they're doing this with this DNA collecting. It's like, all right, so we got all that we can get, pretty much. Maybe the sales are going down on SS3D.com, or 23andMe is not quite as good as it was, not going as quite as good. Now it's been a few years, it's been out. But you know what? Everybody wants to look better. And Jenny Craig, I bet you, what percentage of people doesn't know what Jenny Craig is?
I'd say it's slim to none, people who don't know.
So their marketing, one, is very good, right? And it's going to reach a lot of homes through this television. So it's a trusted brand, right? Everybody trusts Jenny Craig is going to put you on a good plan to lose weight if you want to lose weight. So what better front person for you than Jenny Craig? And
what it does, too, is, because Brad's right. What are we doing right now, Brad? We're getting ready to sign up for The Biggest Loser. Everybody's got their New Year's resolutions. The number one probably is to lose weight. I'm working on a diet myself right now, trying to lose a little more weight. And the Department of Defense comes out with a memo that says, hey, look, be careful about this. And then, I don't know if it's coincidence or not, but weight loss is one of those things. Feeling better about yourself, your body, being healthier. We're all getting older, so we're looking more about our health. To make you forget that the DOD sent out this memo saying, don't let us connect don't let people collect your genetic information or your DNA information. They're a weight loss company.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, the other thing I could think that would be the same is anti-aging stuff. And it might already be out there, but it wouldn't surprise me in the near future if you don't start seeing some of these, anti-aging things. Hey, do you want to, well, I'll tell you what, if you want to look younger, feel younger, what we need is everybody's different. So we need your DNA so we can determine what would be the best way or the best things for you to take or the best supplements or the best exercise or whatever for you to do to make you go back in years. People jump all over it.
Oh, what's the name of the company? Oil A? Jenny Craig, I would imagine in weight loss circles is the equivalent of Oil A, right? Like, I wouldn't be surprised a bit to see them come out with a commercial this coming week, because it seems like just that bourbon seems to be on the cusp of these things a lot of times. Like, we'll talk about them, and then a politician will tweet out something we just talked about, or, this is a perfect example. We talked about this last week, and now Jenny Craig's got this DNA sampling for weight loss. Guys, you want to lose weight? Back away from the ho-hos. Go for a jog.
Did you notice JD act like he didn't know that it was called olive oil? And I can tell from sitting over here that he's got a little blush on tonight.
I did trim my beard.
JD did, for people can't see him. Maybe we'll do a selfie later. He's got, he's looking nice. I don't know. He must have had a date or something because he's shaved up a little bit. The head's looking nice.
I mean, I appreciate you saying that on there. Last week you told me off air. That's fine.
Well, I mean, no, I'm not ashamed, JD, of our good looks. All right, so let's jump into another. Well, we talked about this last week too, and we've talked about this multiple times, and that's Jeffrey Epstein's madam. And I'm pretty sure, and Brad, correct me if I'm wrong, that you actually said this on a show. This is no, JD just said it. We're on the cusp of things, and I'm pretty sure that Brad said this on one of our shows. Correct me if I'm wrong, Brad. But there was an article that came out that says this Gisalane Maxwell, she was the madam for Jeffrey Epstein, or the supposed madam for Jeffrey Epstein. And it comes out that she is protected because she is an Israeli asset. And Epstein was an Israeli asset as well. And they were assets because of all the information that they had on these powerful people in the U.S. or, other countries. And that she is actually being protected. She's in Israel and hiding right now. And is under protection by their government. Did you say that, Brad, on a show?
Yeah, I mean, I think since we've been talking about Epstein, but it's not like a fortune teller thing. This stuff, if you dug into it, is pretty open information and has been for years. It's just been kept off of mainstream media. But yeah, I mean, that was the references. I think we had a discussion about Mossad.
Yeah. I think Jimmy actually asked one time, what does Mossad mean, right? Like,
yeah.
And so, guys, you don't know, but still yet, that's the Israeli intelligence. Okay, Mossad and then Epstein and Maxwell both belong to Mossad.
So again, I think that in almost every topic that we talk about, my view on a lot of this stuff is we've got a lot of things going on in the world, and we think of it as in countries. But I think the intelligence agencies have been running the show worldwide for some time now. And people I know in the past would always say, well, how could that be? Because this person's got more power, or president's got more power, or whoever. But if this is true, right? If Maxwell, Epstein, if these people were assets of intelligence agencies, with that blackmail, what do you think you could get a politician to do?
Oh, that's what I was getting ready to say. What better way to control a politician than to blackmail them into their indiscretions when it comes to pedophilia, young children? Dude, you could control anybody if you could get them caught up in that.
So there's been some conflicting stories. That story that said that she was jumping back and forth and in Israel and these places. And then there was one that came out today that said they think she's in the western United States, but she's actually under the protection of retired Navy SEALs. I would say, honestly, sounds like obviously she's done some horrible things and needs to be held accountable, but you would like for a few of these people to at least make it through the trial so they could turn, but she definitely needs protection right now. And she gave a threat, basically made a comment, said nothing would happen to her because of the dirt that she had on high-ranking people. Well, that was probably a warning shot to say, okay, if you don't step in and try to do something to stop this, then I'm going to start dropping bombs.
And it's interesting because she's still on the loose. I mean, I'm sure with all of our intelligence, and we could find this lady, right? Like you said, there's an account that says she's being protected by our Secret Service. And I don't think she doesn't seem like the woman to make idle threats to me. Somebody that's this well connected and this in the loop. If she makes a threat, I say she's more than willing to go through with it.
She's under investigation by the FBI. So the thing now with being, I don't know what kind of protection it is, but I would say as soon as they start talking to her, they're probably going to afford her protection, because you talk about somebody that knows where the bodies are buried. I mean, you can have all the speculation and say this or that or whatever, but I mean, there's a million pictures out there of her with these people
Everybody.
and Epstein and these people that have come out and said that they were raped or tortured or whatever the case is. She looks pretty guilty.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, and I'm with you. I'll be interested to see if she can make it through. I mean, if she's under the protection of retired Navy SEALs, there's a reason.
Right.
So I guess my question is with this is if that's the case, if you've got these people, you had Epstein arrested. Now you've got his madam under investigation. John of God just got sentenced to however many years. And there's 10 more cases, I think, to come up on him. And he got, I don't remember, 20 years?
I think it was 20 years.
19 maybe?
Yeah.
You got the whole Nexium stuff that's just kind of fell off the map for the last 4 or 5 months. Nobody's heard about it. But you've got all of these people talking. The people involved know everybody's talking at this point. So if you know this is getting ready to hit the fan, if you know that it's coming out, that there is a lot of elite, rich people, politicians, Hollywood, that are involved in this, how would they get out in front of the story?
Oh, and it's funny that you brought that up because I just pulled up an article. It was something that Brad and I had talked about, and we had forgot to put it on the list, JD, to talk about. But John Grisham, everybody know who John Grisham is? He comes out this week, and this is in Forbes.
I've seen this article, actually.
Yeah. Millionaire author John Grisham says not all men who watch child porn are pedophiles. And here's the first paragraph of said article. Crime writer John Grisham has said America is unjustly jailing too many citizens for viewing child pornography. Now, take that statement in. Just, if you're listening, take that in. I'm going to read it again. Crime writer John Grisham has said America is unjustly jailing too many citizens for viewing child pornography. In an interview with The Telegraph, Grisham, who earned $17 million last year and tied for 6th place in Forbes' ranking of top-earning authors, attacked the widespread incarceration of those who watch child porn. So, exactly to Brad's point, if you know all this is getting ready to hit the fan, what are you going to try to do? You're going to try to normalize it. So you have one of the most well-known crime authors in the world come out and say, nothing to see here, not a big deal. Not everybody that watches this stuff is a pedophile. I try not to judge anybody, okay? But if you're watching child porn, you're a pedophile. There's something wrong. You need to be put in jail for that. I'm pretty open about most people's lifestyles. We've talked about that on here. I'm pretty open about it. Do what you want to do. But there's something, the wiring's wrong, or something. If you're watching child porn, there's a problem.
You know? Well, so I'm going to shock you guys right now. But if you read the rest of that article, what John Grisham's actually talking about is people accidentally getting child pornography. Like, I know that sounds crazy, to accidentally get child pornography. But I actually know of an incident. I was in the National Guard, and my captain went on a mission, and this is after I'd done the ETS, which means my in return for service again. But he had a computer. You know, back then you couldn't just get on your phone and look at porn like you can now. And he had a computer, and one of the guys in the company sent him a bunch of porn. Well, some of that porn had underage girls on it, unbeknownst to the captain. But the captain ended up getting court-martialed over that. So, how do you feel about it? Do you still stand by what you said?
Well, no, I stand by what I said.
Right.
Because it ain't the same thing.
But well, is it possible to go watch... There's a lot of people watch porn, man. Porn's a big industry, right?
Absolutely.
Like, is it possible to be on a porn site that maybe not... like, the dark web or whatever, and where there's some crazy stuff going on, and you're watching porn that has a child in it, and you don't even have... Is it possible that I watched a 16-year-old in a porn, not knowing she was 16, thinking she was 19?
I mean, I'm sure that's a possibility.
So what John Grisham's article, what he says later on in that is, he talks about them accidentally watching child pornography, and we're putting people in jail for that, right? I don't know if you read all the article. But
I read the whole article, but your point's taken. But I don't think that's why John Grisham's coming out and saying that.
Now, let me make sure I'm very, very clear on this. If you're watching child porn, purposely watching child porn, you need to rot in hell. I hope you go kill yourself right now, please.
And that argument, being made is not everybody that watches porn is a pedophile. I might play the lottery tonight and I might not win. That doesn't mean I don't want to be a millionaire, right? It's just about access, right?
Right, sure.
Well, and I find it hard to believe that anybody would get prosecuted for having, a pornographic video on their computer. That one that had a 16-year-old on it, and I can your captain was court-martialed, or the guy was court-martialed. Get that?
I mean, he got sent thousands of videos of porn. Like, there's no way he could have watched all of it. You know what I'm saying?
Right. It's just most of these guys that are going down. It's not for that. It's not for that. In my opinion, it's not.
Well, that's
for
probably
that
true
type of
most of it.
pornography.
But anytime you take a broad swipe at something, that's what happens. You always have these outlier cases where there is an exception to the rule. You understand what I'm saying? So I think each case is case by case. Again, child pornography, not cool. You know what I'm saying? But is there anything outside pedophilia? Is there anything that you would rather be accused of than that? I can't think of a thing I'd rather be accused. I'd rather be accused of anything.
Whoa! I know what you meant, man.
I would rather be accused of anything,
right,
than that, because no matter what, right now in the public eye, you're guilty. Period. And you're always going to be guilty. Jimmy, if I ever get accused of that, no, it's not true. But are you going to send your daughters home with me? Are you going to let them come stay night with Haley here at my house?
Probably not.
Absolutely not. Right? And so I just think, like, you're right. Let's not normalize it, but also let's not paint everybody in the bad light without knowing the whole story.
My point is, because I understand what you're saying about, things or somebody could not know or whatever. But you're talking about John Grisham, who is probably one of the most famous writers of the last 30 years. Sure. That is that brings this up in an interview.
Yeah, why even talk about it?
Why would that be something that you were going to come out on the stage and defend in an interview about the 1% of people that are getting caught up in this that aren't? Because the stories you see and the people getting round up, I mean, you're talking about, like, there's a difference in thinking somebody's 18 plus and they're 16 versus people sending porn of toddlers and these kind of things. You're seeing people getting rounded up all the time. So why would he poke his head up and come to the forefront to defend this in this time when all these people are getting busted? That's what my point is.
To put it in front of people, right?
Yeah, why even talk about it? Like, how does that benefit him in any way to defend people that are getting busted for pedophilia?
Right. No, I agree with that.
Because, I mean, and like I said, your point's taken. I mean,
I just think that needs to be said, though. You know what I'm saying?
And it's a very good point. Your point's very good on that, because that case, not everybody is. I just found that odd, because you've got all this stuff going on, then why would John Grisham come out and talk about it? Yeah. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So, all right, so I want to get into, I guess, what will be considered our last couple of real topics, because I think these are going to be some pretty detailed topics. Did you have something you want to say, Brad?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so there's been a lot of discussion on here about the gun control debate. It was, some of the first episodes that we did.
The first one.
And we talked about the gun control debate, and there's a lot of stuff going on in the news pertaining to Virginia. And because their house, they were Republican controlled, or it was split. They had a Democratic governor, Republican house, and then that flipped. It's now Democrat. And people in Virginia are freaking out, thinking that because they're talking about it, that they're going to come and take their guns. And JD, I think you even mentioned there's a group maybe on Facebook in Kentucky called Kentucky United that are freaking out about this as well. Yeah. So I did some research into it as far as what the gun laws in Virginia are now, what they're proposing, and do you think people, JD, are overreacting in Virginia based on what you've read?
What I've seen, what's interesting to me, and I started doing this research, like, every state, the NRA gives a grade to. I don't know if you guys knew that or not, but they always give a state a grade based on their gun control laws. And the NRA gave Virginia D. And like you said, Virginia Senate was controlled by the Republicans. And what do you think those Republicans, what kind of grade do you think they got from the NRA?
I'm sure they got a big A.
They all got A's, even though they controlled the state. Which, to me, is almost like they're trying to make it a partisan thing. They always have. I feel like the NRA is fear-mongering. I see all over Facebook, the governor said he's going to confiscate your guns. I can't find anywhere the governor ever said that. I see he says, if you have an assault rifle, we want to get it registered. If you have one now, you don't have to turn it in. We don't want to take it. We just want to get it registered. And the NRA's reply was, oh, that's just the first step in confiscation. Now, to me, that is the model of fear-mongering. Even though I may disagree with what the governor said or that stance he took, I think the NRA is dangerous in their fear-mongering.
So, in all fairness, I don't want
Sure.
to interrupt you, but let me kind of run through what the Democratic package, because there was one that they tried to get pushed through, and based on what I read, the Republicans shut things down, to get through the election. They lost the election, and so now all this is back on the table. And this is what the package would include. Ban assault weapons, silencers, high-capacity magazines, and other dangerous weapons. Require background checks on all firearm transactions. Reinstate the law, repealed in 2012, allowing no more than one handgun purchase a month. Allow municipalities to enact ordinances that are stricter than state law. Among the examples they cite, rules banning guns in libraries or municipal buildings. Mm-hmm. Require lost or stolen guns to be reported to authorities within 1 day. Allow law enforcement to temporarily separate a person from firearms if the person exhibits dangerous behavior that presents an immediate threat to self or others, and that goes back to the red flag laws. Prohibit the subjects of protective orders from possessing guns, and toughen punishment for allowing access of a loaded, unsecured firearm to someone 18 or younger. And the one big thing was they were talking about if you had an assault weapon, people were concerned that they would come and take your assault weapon. And it does say that you would be grandfathered in. You would just be required to report that.
You'd have a certain time.
Yeah, they'd give you a grace period, and you would just be required to report that.
So let me ask you this before you go on. Are any of those things outside of like a common sense gun legislation? Like, is any of those things outside the realm that we shouldn't consider common sense things? To either one of you.
Well, and I'm like you all, I tried to look into it when you brought it up, and I don't know a ton about it because what I was trying to find, like some of the things, like one thing talked about, said that Northam or somebody said something about the National Guard, and I didn't find it. I'm not saying it's not out there, but I couldn't find it. A lot of stuff for the most part makes sense. I'm not a fan of registration, and that was one thing I think with our interview with Taylor, the gunsmith, and we were talking about that and what could be the consequences of registration and really what does it do to register. So there's some things I'm not a big fan of. Most of it doesn't sound way out of line to me. But again, with the red flag laws, just like the gene editing DNA conversation, is who makes those determinations on who is fit to have a gun and not. And maybe they've got that lined out. I just haven't seen that yet.
No, and Jimmy read that article. It's the same exact. I got the same list right here in front of me. But my problem with the laws, the red flag laws particularly, is the language. It's like temporarily separate a person from firearms if they exhibit dangerous behavior that presents an immediate threat to themselves or others. What does that look like? You know what I'm saying? Like, and who gets to make that determination? A judge? Like, I don't know. But I do know this. If my daughter was married and her husband threatened her with a gun, I'd want somebody to be able to take his gun away from him. How do you feel about that when you think about that instance? Your daughters.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with that in that particular instance. If Ashton was married to somebody or Addison were married to a guy and they threatened him with a gun, I would like to know that somebody could come take their gun in that case, but I also like to know that I would be able to have my gun.
Right. I mean, that's what you get into, man. That's Pandora's. That's the paradigm we get into with these things, is that where those lines get drawn at, right?
Because to me, because I'm with you. I mean, I have daughters. I feel the same way. I don't want anybody to be able to, harm them or them be in that situation. My issue with the thing is, where is due process? So if that's one thing, if they are harming or they are making a threat, but what's the difference in them actually making a threat and me calling as the neighbor and saying I overheard them making a threat and you take their firearms, right? Maybe I'm in a feud with you as my neighbor,
right,
and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to go over here and tell him what's going on, but I know he has guns. And I'm not looking for a fight here, right? I'm looking for a victim, somebody without guns.
Sure.
So I want to make sure you're disarmed when I come over there. I call in and say, hey, I've been looking through the window or I've overheard and whatever. And JD's, he's being abusive, that he's threatened to shoot or whatever. Can somebody come and take your guns at that point? And that's where it's scary to me.
Well, it's just a slippery slope we go down to. That's what you get into with these things, is that now I can't protect myself. If something does happen, here I am naked without my gun.
When I read that article, because, even when we did the interview with Taylor and we talked about it before, I was just I didn't know, really where I was at. And I have really thought about this a lot. And I'm afraid of the slope. Like, all those things I just read all kind of make sense to me. Those are all common sense, but it is, what slope does it put us on? What does it start us towards? If you have somebody that has an agenda ultimately to take your guns away, any kind of change, like I said, all those really kind of made sense to me. Like, just me sitting there thinking about it, that makes sense to me. But again, since being on the Martin County Water Board, and it's not something I talk about a lot because my mom would get really scared, I've been threatened multiple times. And I've never really talked to Brad about this. I've never really even talked about it, but I've been threatened multiple times. And I went and got my pistols ready, made sure that I had bullets, all those things. There's the case where I would like to think that I would like to be able to call law enforcement and say, hey, this guy threatened me. Make sure they take their guns, but I don't want that to ever happen to me. I know I can protect myself. And that's the Pandora's box, like JD said, and it's a slippery slope. If you start taking rights away from gun owners, then where does it ultimately end up? And, and that's what I don't know. I don't know. We said this in the beginning. What's the answer? There's no good answer.
We've got the questions, baby.
And again, it's all there. There's valid points on every side of this, and I'm obviously a Second Amendment guy, but I do understand the arguments on a lot of these things. But again, you take like Eastern Kentucky. Per capita, there's probably as many guns that's been out in the last couple months here in these mountains than anywhere in the world, right? How many negative things happened? You have people that are trained to use guns and whatever. Well, we get into these red flag laws, and what concerns me is even take it a step further into the other things that we talk about, whether it be the surveillance of the things you have in your home, right? We were talking about the DNA and those things. So what if I wanted to get a warrant to go into JD's Alexa or whatever, and I don't think they've let anybody do that yet, but it's coming. So I can make a false claim, whether it be a red flag law or whatever. Well, do you think you could get a warrant faster if you said, oh, well, this guy, we think he's a threat we got a call that he's a threat, that he's going to shoot somebody. We're going to get a warrant, and they could get into your life and get you for something else that's not even related, just to get the foot in the door. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it goes back to what we talked about earlier, about your due process. Where is the due process in all this, right? And the answer is there isn't any. But I can't help but going back to due process and warrants and all these things are just ideas. A warrant is just a piece of paper. When it comes down to it, if somebody's holding a gun on my daughter or has threatened that, I don't know where I come down on this thing, because I'm a Second Amendment guy too. But you put yourself, there's a lot of women out there who are abused, and you live with these guys. They make bad decisions. Some of these women make bad decisions, get in bad relationships with a lot of bad people. And a lot of bad people who own guns legally can shoot you just as dead as the person who owns it illegally, right? I just want to put myself in a situation where, or my daughter in a situation where if she is threatened or needs help, she can get it. And the other side of me, and hear me talking out the other side of my mouth, is I want to be able to have my gun unless there's some reason I committed a felony and had a reason to take that gun away.
And I'm sure you guys saw the shooting that happened in the church out in Texas. I think it was a Church of Christ. The guy comes in, starts shooting, and they just so happen to have
6 of them.
some former FBI guys or, some kind of security guys that were packing and shot the guy.
But Jack Wilson, he actually runs a gun range, I think. And he teaches tactical movement, with a gun.
And so, when most criminals will get their hands on guns no matter what. I don't care how tight you make the gun laws. I do believe that. But I said that is, and JD, I do want to ask you the question though about Kentucky United, because I've seen that pop up on Facebook, but I have no idea what that is.
Okay, so what Kentucky United is a group of Second Amendment supporters who want to make Kentucky counties sanctuary counties, to where if there is a gun confiscation, the government can't come in and confiscate your guns, or at least the local authorities won't come in and confiscate your guns. Which is an ideal I can get behind for the most part. What I can't get behind is how far some of these guys are willing to take it. I mean, some of the guys are ready to start a civil war and over an ideal that's not even realistic at this point. I mean, have you guys seen any of this? I
haven't seen any of it. That's why I'm asking you, because okay. I don't really know much as far as the Kentucky United part goes. I didn't know if it was it was a militia, they're trying to make it sanctuary counties, and then I do think that it should be on the states, Brad, to make these decisions about their gun laws. I don't know that it necessarily should be the federal government. If it's something gets overboard, then the federal government can step in, but...
Yeah, the only thing with that one is, it's a constitutional, I'm a state laws, I'm all for, how many times have you all heard me talk about here, states' rights and everything being done by the state.
Those lines, though.
But, you're talking about the First Amendment, Second Amendment. You go through that, that's what our country was founded on. That's what we are. So I don't know that. But kind of the funny thing is I want to see the people battle back and forth, because you got the sanctuary cities, right, with the illegal immigrants. Yeah. Sanctuary cities.
I'm sure that's where they got this idea from.
And it's okay. Yeah. So then if you have sanctuary cities for gun rights, that's going to be a fun battle down the road. But
and I'm with you. I enjoy a good debate as much as anybody. But I took a picture of one of these guys' posts and was really alarming. I sent it to you guys. But this is what this guy actually said. In talking about, of course, they were talking about partisanship and how the Democrats want your guns, and this guy, which I think is crazy. But anyway, he says, "I'm not convinced a war would be a bad thing. There's a lot more going on in this country besides that one thing being in fact. A divided country cannot stand that this country is divided. One side is going to come out on top. Numbers are only going to be on our side for so long. Then what?" So this guy's willing not only to sacrifice himself, does he think his family's going to come out unscathed from a civil war over guns?
But you get these people. You think about with anything. You think about your however many Facebook friends that you've got. It seems like people are in big numbers, but it's usually a small percentage. It's the 5% that just doesn't shut up and they talk all the time. So you think they're majority, right? Because they come out and say crazy stuff. I think you're talking about you're not talking about the normal gun-loving American that just wants to be able to protect their family and mind their business at their house. You're talking about people that's probably been thinking about some kind of civil war for the last 20 years. This just gave him an opportunity to talk about it on the internet.
He's got a flag hanging up and he's jerking off. A rebel flag. But I want to think that you're right, that guy's in the minority. But it feels like in this group, every time somebody tries to be reasonable, there's always somebody to shoot that down. Guys, this ain't a party issue. This is about our gun rights. Oh, well, you can't be for the Democrats if you're going to take away our gun rights. That's the party that's we're attacking us. It's like, man, all Democrats want your guns. I don't care about your guns, man. Go ahead.
But again, you're talking about a group that individuals have went on.
Sure.
And joined the group. So you're going to have an echo chamber where the people in that group are going to predominantly talk one way or another.
Right. And you're right. But I was also taught to never underestimate the power of stupid people in large numbers. And And 5% of Kentucky is still a pretty big number, or whatever the number is. And as long as they keep, they're going to eventually, they're going to have kids, and their kids are going to have kids. Like, and it's just dangerous rhetoric. But it goes back to what we was talking about a minute ago about normalizing. We're normalizing this talk about having a civil war. No matter how uneducated this moron is, we don't want to normalize this. This is not safe rhetoric. We need to shut this down. And I'm all about free speech, but like I said last week, the one thing I love about Facebook is everybody has a voice. And the one thing I hate about Facebook is everybody has a voice.
Well, I think it'll be an interesting test case moving forward to see what actually happens in Virginia if they're able to pass this and get this through.
I do agree with you, though, that you don't ever argue with stupid people because they will bring you down to their level and beat you with experience every time.
All right, so let's get to our last topic here as JD cracks that cold beer.
Got a buzz.
And this is probably the biggest story in the country right now. Or I know if you turn on the news, that's what you're seeing. I mean, it's, it's on everywhere. People freaking out left and right.
Can I just say I got a buzz just in time for this important subject?
Yeah, right. JD, bipartisan means too. I want to throw that in there. All right, so
that's crazy.
So this comes from the New York Times. U.S. strike in Iraq kills Qasem Soleimani, commander of Iranian forces. Soleimani was planning attacks on Americans across the region, leading to an airstrike in Baghdad. The Pentagon statement said. Iran's supreme leader called for vengeance. So, Iran's top security and intelligence commander was killed early Friday in a drone strike at Baghdad International Airport that was authorized by President Trump, American officials said. The commander, Major General Qasem Soleimani, who led the powerful Quds force of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, was killed along with several officials from Iraqi militias backed by Tehran when an American MQ-9 Reaper drone fired missiles into a convoy that was leaving the airport. All right. So, the question, and JD, I'm just going to start with you.
No, we'll start with Brad, because I want to see what Brad has to say.
No, we're starting with you.
No, come on now.
But because I think I'm interested where you're at,
right.
Because it's one of those things where, if you watch mainstream media, you've got people losing their minds. One side's losing their minds that, we're going to end up in a war, and it's the same stuff they've said about North Korea. And the other
side's losing their minds saying, it's just another...
Yeah,
whatever.
So, I don't care to start and tell you that I think it was a good thing that Soleimani was killed. All right?
Right.
He is a known terrorist.
Right.
He has killed many, many Americans. He was involved in the planning of the attack of our embassy. And from what I can find, he was making plans to attack more Americans going forward. So do you think that Trump was justified, or the United States was justified in taking out this target?
So, I'll start with this. Was Soleimani a good dude? Absolutely not. Is the world better off without him? In my opinion, yes. I don't have no problem with Soleimani being dead. But I think even Brad spoke to this last week about you're going to see the people on the right trying to start something and get some of this heat away from President Trump.
Well, I think we both made the same comment, but I was talking from the other side to get the heat off of the impeachment.
Right.
Because this thing is, the impeachment thing's not going well. And I'm talking about in the, not just opinion, I'm talking about with the money that they're raising, with the poll numbers, with those things, is, Trump's building a war chest because of the impeachment thing. Again, I'm not saying the left or anybody started this whole thing with Soleimani, but you're talking about a guy, you don't have to listen to me much on here to know that I'm pretty close. I'm not an isolationist, but I'm pretty close as far as I don't like getting in any of these entanglements anywhere else going on in the world with what's going on with other people's business. The difference with Soleimani is he killed a bunch of Americans. Even the State Department numbers, he killed, I think, 608 Americans between 2003 and 2011. It was like 17% of all the Americans killed in Iraq was, this guy in some form or fashion was responsible for. And, like I said, I don't like getting in these wars, but I wasn't hypocritical on this either. That was one thing. When Obama got Bin Laden, right? They get Baghdadi. If they get the terrorist, I'm all for it.
Right. So from what I can tell, though, is what's interesting to me is the timing of it. It's after this impeachment. His poll numbers are down January 1st. He's got the worst disapproval rating he's had since he's been in office. And so now he does this attack, and I can't help. And that's
where did that come from?
Where did it come from? Because I haven't seen those.
Because
numbers. All his poll numbers,
I think it was Rasmussen and Reuters, I believe, had him.
That
He's
is
actually
from Reuters right here. The article, I've got it. His approval numbers were 52.9 for disapproval, which is the highest it's ever been.
But look at his numbers compared to Obama's at the same time in his term.
But they're the lowest. His disapproval rating number is the highest they've ever been in his presidency. So regardless of Obama, we got to stop fantasizing about Obama, guys. Obama's not the president anymore. He was 3.5 years ago. And I know Trump's fascinated with Obama. I don't know why, but he is.
But all of these things are relevant because you've got the same names and the same players. Let me ask you this. So to your point, so you think that Trump had Soleimani go after the embassy so he could then kill him on the airport?
No, I didn't say that. I say that it's interesting that his poll numbers were what they were after he had multiple chances to kill him. They've been following him for a long, long time, right? Is that true or false?
Well, it's true, but they couldn't kill him.
Yeah, they could. Why couldn't they kill him?
Well, even like with Israel, you can look up in 2018, we had to approve for Israel to go after him because our last administration wouldn't.
So we couldn't kill him. He's killed 608 people, but we couldn't kill him until just 2 days ago. Is that what you're saying?
The last administration would not approve for them to kill him.
We've had 3.5 years of this, 3 years of this administration to come about 16 more days. So we haven't been able to kill him in the last 3.5 years. Is that what you're saying? Last 3 years. We've not been able to kill him. Is that what you mean?
Well, I mean, I don't know from day one. Do you know where he's at?
Yeah, we've been surveying him for a long time.
So,
but since 2003, actually. Go ahead.
So I guess I'm just confused on what would be the other option. So they have this and they're at the embassy.
Right.
And this guy's responsible for it. We let him kill the people at the embassy and we let the guy go because of the timing.
So we killed Soleimani in a convoy nowhere near the embassy, and that stopped the attack on the embassy. Is that what you're saying?
No, he attacked the embassy.
No, he planned the attack. Right. But was he at the embassy or was he in a convoy somewhere else?
He was in a convoy after the embassy was attacked.
So that stopped the attack on the embassy.
Okay, so well then,
is that what you're saying? Hold on, is that your position? Since they killed Soleimani, who was somewhere else, that stopped the attack on the embassy. Is that what you're saying?
That makes absolutely no sense.
No, I agree with you. It doesn't make any sense.
Okay, so
make any sense.
Then why did we go after Bin Laden?
The attack already happened.
Right, so it's over with.
Right, why would it to kill him? Why would it stop the attack on the embassy?
So the embassy attack was over with. So the embassy attack was over with.
Yeah.
And who got killed at the embassy attack?
Did anybody get killed? I don't know. Did anybody get killed?
No.
Okay.
So, but he's killed
because we had the Marines come in.
Right. Good. That's a good point. Good play on our part. So he's killed 608 Americans to this point, but they attacked our embassy, then they stopped, and then we should kill him, right? Is that your point is? Because that makes no sense to me. You're making no sense in that. That's your argument.
So Bin Laden flies planes into New York City, but he's in Pakistan or Afghanistan. We don't go after him because he's not in New York City. I'm just not understanding.
So we don't kill Bin Laden because that wouldn't have stopped the New York.
It wouldn't have stopped his next terrorist attack.
That's what I feel like you're saying. I'm not quite.
I understand. A good point. But this guy's killed 608 people, and we've known it for a while now. He's done that. So why choose now to kill him? Is my point.
Well, Susan Rice came on TV the other day and was dogging Trump in one way, but then she also said in the same interview, she said, "Well, we couldn't kill him because we didn't have access to him or didn't know where he was at.
We killed him with a drone. We since 2003 we followed him. We know where he's at. So I've not seen that interview, but from what I've seen, it's not like we just showed up out of the blue somewhere. He was in a convoy. Somehow we knew that. How do we know he was in that truck? Because had surveillance on him. Does that make sense? Because it's got to make sense.
Well, no, that makes sense.
All right. So he's killed 608 Americans, and he didn't kill anybody this week, but we killed him this week. So why did we kill him?
So because we sent the Marines in, and they didn't actually kill anybody. What do you think would happen if we didn't send the Marines in?
No,
they were taking battering rams and trying to go through the door. What do you think would have happened?
No, I think
so if he's behind it, so because the Marines stopped it, then we are not allowed to hold somebody accountable for their past crimes or the crimes that they are saying they're going to commit in the future.
Because, so let me ask you this question.
Okay.
So say we know that he planned the attack on the embassy, and we know that he was making plans to attack and kill more Americans going forward.
We don't know that. We've been told that.
We've been told that. Okay, that's fair. Well, but we've been told that. So they know more than we do, right? We can agree with that. The military department, the intelligence department.
Yeah, but that's not who's telling us. But go ahead.
All right. So, and if say Trump doesn't take him out, okay,
Sure.
and then he does kill more Americans. And it comes out, well, Trump had the opportunity to take him out, and he didn't, and he killed more Americans. Now you've got people killing him because he didn't do that. In my opinion, JD, and I heard this said the other day, is if it was the devil that he had taken out,
I see that.
then he wasn't.
Then
You
bad.
would be in here saying, not you, but the people on the left said, well, he wasn't that evil.
Well, and your point's well taken. And I'm not disagreeing with all his course of action here. Sending in the Marines and saving our people at the embassy was a good thing, man. But we need to understand that why they showed up at our embassy is because we killed 25 of their people already. Right? But now, we've been able to kill this guy for 3 years, and we chose now to kill him at this time when your poll numbers are at the highest disapproval rating you've had in your presidency. I mean, it just seems like, because remember what Trump said about Obama? What did he say about Obama in 2011? He's going to attack Iran and start a war so he can get reelected. I mean, because he's weak. And that's Trump's words, not my words. And so now I feel like that Trump is replaying this out on his own terms.
Now, Obama just didn't drop a bomb. He just sent him $1.5 billion. That was his play.
That's not what he did. But we did that as a union did that. The NATO did that. Right? To be fair.
You'll have to show me that where it's all within the pallets of cash that went over there.
All those pallets of cash that we sent.
Right, that's Facebook for you. That's not true. But you think so? It's 2016. You think we're sending piles of cash instead of just hitting a computer button? Is that what you're telling me? We're sending.
That was what the whole big thing was. They sent it in multiple currencies.
Right. They sent multiple currencies because there was multiple nations paying for the. Anyway, that was just. Anyway, but no, let's not get distracted.
But hold on, though. You just said they do it on computers, and then you just admitted that they did it in cash in currency.
No, I didn't say they did it in cash. I said they did it for different people. Did it in with different payments. So, is diplomacy better or is war better?
Diplomacy first, and then if you can't, you go to war.
Right. Agreed. So let's talk about the pros and cons of each. All right. The pros of diplomacy are Iran doesn't have any nuclear weapons, right? Because they've done what they said in our Iran nuclear deal. Iranians live, and more Americans live, right? More Americans live, more Iranians live, and the world is not in a war. We're all safe. The con is it costs us some money. Does anybody got anything they want to add to that? Any pros or cons to add to that? Diplomacy? War, the pros and cons. Iran does not have nuclear responsibility or capabilities still yet. The cons are it costs us money. Iranians die. Americans die. And now the world is a less safe place because, of course, more people from other countries are going to die as well. Does anybody disagree with that?
I will say this.
So diplomacy is a better...
I've heard this argument before.
Okay.
About North Korea.
And we've not been to war with North Korea.
That's right.
Right.
You just made my point.
From diplomacy.
Yeah. You just made my point. What you just read, those talking points, what you just read, I have read the exact same thing about North Korea. When Trump became president and all these things happened, Trump went in. Yes, he didn't have to fire a bomb. He didn't have to do anything that we're aware of. Iran has been talking noise to us and killing people for a long time. They've been looking at Soleimani for a long time. I just don't see... I can see where you would draw the correlation.
Yeah, but I don't know how I made your points, though. Yeah, go ahead.
No, you totally made... I
don't think I did. I think you made my points. Go ahead. Diplomacy's worked in North Korea. That's the point. No, and it's also worked in Iran.
But what you're saying, though, what I was saying is, those talking points that you just read, those were the things that were said about, because we were going to end up in this big war with North Korea.
Wow, who said that? I've never heard that ever.
Everybody on the news said that.
Dude,
before Trump came in office,
you've heard that.
when Trump got into office, they said we would end up in World War III with North Korea, and those exact same talking points I read.
And we haven't
attacked and then it was World War III with China, and now it's World War III with Iran.
And we haven't attacked those people, and we have been in war. Diplomacy is a good thing. So my point still stands, and your point, I'm going to stand. This guy, I'm glad he's dead. Do I think the timing of this was very questionable? For sure.
Do you think
so? When would be a better time? When would be a better time for you for him to take him out? What would be the action that would be approved for Trump to take to kill this man? Like, is there a certain month out of the year?
His approval ratings or whatever.
So you don't think politicians look at your approval ratings? Is what you're saying?
Oh, yes, of course.
So I mean, but what's the number? Like, should he wait till it's like 47% and it's June 15th, or what would be the time that would be appropriate for him to take out somebody who's killed 608 Americans? Because I'd be
when he killed 601 instead of 608, that'd been a lot better.
The 608.
You'd have to talk to Obama.
Those families.
Well, he's not killing him by 3 years, and now we're killing him. So is that what you're saying?
Now we're not. If you want to get into that, I mean, we dropped 25,000 plus missiles in 2016 alone in 7 different countries, and none of this stuff ever came up. But then we kill somebody that's killed multiple Americans, and there'll be some kind of impeachment drawn up about this before the end of the week.
So let's talk about Obama, because since you disagree with Trump, you gotta agree with what Obama did, right?
My question is,
no, you don't.
Well, but what's the? Why did? I'm not talking about you, JD. I'm talking about all these people that I'm seeing on the internet. But you're
talking to me, though. That's who we're talking to.
I'm talking about all of the talking heads on TV that are making a big deal about this. Didn't care about any of this other stuff. They didn't care. So why does it matter now? And again, what is the appropriate timing? When should we take this guy out? A terrorist. When should we take him out?
I'm not saying he shouldn't take him out. Did I say that one time? I'm saying the timing looks suspicious to me. And for anybody it doesn't look suspicious to, I mean, you're just looking through rose-tinted glasses, because it's a 50. Is his low? Why did he do it now? If the embassy wasn't under attack anymore, the things that moved on, he was not at the embassy. Why now? After he killed 608 people, and he didn't kill anybody this week, but this week we took him out. Why did he kill him?
Because he was the only president in the last 20 years that's had the balls to do it.
Oh yeah, because Obama didn't kill 25 of the terrorist leaders, right? He didn't do that.
Let me ask you this.
Like Bin Laden still running around because Obama didn't have the balls to kill him.
We would have to get into a much more deeper conspiracy discussion than I want to about Iran.
Right, sure. But Obama, to say he didn't have balls is not an accurate statement, because he killed 25 terroristic leaders. Go ahead.
So if they surround the embassy, not just surround, but just like these people were protesting. I mean, they're trying to break in, right? They're trying to break in, take the people over, do whatever they were going to do.
Yes.
They do that. This guy gets taken out. When the American military says that we're going to do something in the future, do you think that means something now? I'm just... Well, I mean, do you think they think he's serious? If they do that and you turn around and take the head off the snake, then the next time there's a threat, is it an empty threat, or do they think...
No, you're right. Absolutely.
I have a question for you. All right. So, and again, just talking this out.
Yeah. I'm willing to give him a credit, guys.
Do you think diplomacy with Iran has maybe been worn out? And we were just at the point...
It was worn out because we pulled out of the deal we made with them. Because Trump is absolutely fascinated with Barack Obama, and he doesn't want to do... If he did it, it's bad, period. No matter what. So, that's why.
But and one difference you're talking about with Soleimani than some of the other people is some of the other people were getting funding from multiple different places. I mean, this was a state sponsor. He was a commander, right? So we know that Iran is funding terrorist things. So why do we want to be in an agreement with them having to do with weapons?
Because we don't want to have nuclear power is why. That's why. Because they're a terrorist organization. Because they do back terrorists. That's why we won't be in agreement with them. I mean, it makes perfect sense to me.
The exact same argument. So this is what I hear, though. This is the exact same argument.
But it's worked, though. That argument's worked.
Here's the
diplomacy's
how long has it worked?
For a long time.
I mean, you go back into, when...
you're going to bring up Hitler and Churchill and... what's the other guy's name? I can't remember. Go ahead.
What?
We tried to appease Hitler, right? Is that what you're going to say? Like,
I have no idea what you're talking about, to be honest with you.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I missed...
But, Iran has fundamentally changed a lot over the last 40 years, right? Since 1979 and all that stuff.
Since you tried to put a Shaw in, yeah.
Right. And if you want some fun reading, look into Operation Ajax and the CIA going in and overthrowing all that stuff. But I mean, we're talking about people that have been known for funding terrorists. It's not just like this is just something that is a conspiracy theory. We know that they fund terrorists. So it's just amazing how many people, and you're making valid points. I'm not talking about you specifically, but we talk about what's on the news, and these are things that I'm seeing, is that people are sympathizing with the terrorist that we shouldn't have killed this man. Now, I'm with you on the timing. If you want to question that, that's fine. But again, you're talking about somebody that's killed. Who are we as Americans if we get to a point to where, just like the picture that surfaced a couple years ago on the where Iran got some of our sailors and had them on their hands and knees, and granted, we went out of our space, right, in that situation, and that might have been common practice what to do. But what I'm saying is, are we going to capitulate to terrorists and terrorist organizations, or are we going to protect our people?
No, we should protect our people. But diplomacy is always better than sacrificing American lives.
So what do you all think? Okay, so aside from him getting killed on the airport, and I'm not gonna lie, there has been some real funny memes.
For sure. For sure.
Right. So aside from that, what do you all think is next with Iran?
I don't know. It's interesting to see, and I've seen the meme on Facebook, and I don't know if it's true or not, about them making vessel or water maneuvers with Russia and China, because I know they are close cohorts. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to play out.
I think nothing.
Yeah. I don't think
one thing is going to happen. I think Iran has done what Iran has done because we let them. We let them do it.
What do they do?
They're a terrorist organization. They're a terrorist government. Their general is a known terrorist. The guy we just killed is a known terrorist. We have let them do it. They can't control our oil. Trump has taken that leverage away. I don't think anything happens.
You're obviously going to see some of these dumpster fires as far as, you'll see hits here or there, and whether it's them or somebody else doing it and trying to give them credit for it to start something. But Iran has not been in a good position for a couple years. Their people have been protesting on the verge of an uprising for, I think, about 2 years now. No media coverage of that. So the people basically want to overthrow them anyway. I mean, you've got tons. Have you all seen the protest?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I've seen it, but you won't see it on the mainstream.
So they have to sound powerful. So you'll hear the same kind of saber rattling, just like with Kim Jong-un. Oh, we're going to do this and we're going to do this. But really the only big threat that I've heard was from some like real low level guy. And I thought, really, is that the best that they've got right now, is to make a threat from a guy that is kind of a nobody, but no, I don't see, because, you've got, if you look into Iran and their military, their military are not getting fed properly, they're in bad shape. So I don't know how long that these people will keep standing up. You've got the people protesting. You already had military stand down last year, basically to the people, and took the side of the people. So think about, okay, this new general. And not to be, I know there's nothing that should be funny about this, but this kind of is funny.
So, not funny, but it is.
you've got Soleimani's replacement, right? Mm. They might as well have him a uniform with a big bullseye on the back of it, right? But it's one thing, he's got skin in the game. At least he gets the name recognition, right, of being that person. Could you imagine being his pilot? Or his driver.
Right. Like my favorite meme that's come out of this whole thing is, says, Trump said there's no Walmarts in Iran, they're all Targets. Well, but let me, before you go on.
Go ahead.
Did you all read the article that I just looked this up? Were you all aware that there was 50 billion barrels of oil found in the oil field in Iran just a little while ago in November? Did y'all know that?
I didn't know that, no.
Do you think that's pretty interesting?
Not really.
Not really? That probably has nothing to do with it, right?
We're no longer energy dependent on the Middle East.
Oh, really?
I mean, as far as we're no longer energy dependent.
Yeah, look at our oil production. We're like...
we're one of the biggest oil...
I mean, we're also our oil consumption's way higher than everybody else's too, right? So the
Yeah,
percentages might not line up. Like,
There's
Go
no
ahead.
longer, we're just no longer leveraged that way.
I also know that before Trump became a serious political candidate, one of the things he always said was, I would go in there and I would take the rule. I mean, did you guys ever hear him say that?
I honestly, I can't say that I did.
Because, okay, well, you have to take my word for this. And then we find this new field that's, got 50 billion barrels of oil reserves in it. Like, I just think it's interesting timing, man.
So, if that's the case, again, if you're talking about the oil what pretty much everything in our lifetime has been about oil, every war, every fight, every whatever. So, I don't know. What is war about? What do we want that power with the terrorists?
I just don't think there's going to be a war. I just don't think there's going to be World War III.
I don't know.
They may throw a couple bombs at a couple of our stations or something like that, and then we'll see if Trump does what he says he's going to do with a disproportionate response. We'll see. I don't know. I think JD, it's one of those things where it's almost like the impeachment talk. We all kind of agree. I don't know. On the impeachment talk, we really don't agree at all. But, on this, we all agree that it was a good thing that Soleimani was killed. He's a terrorist. He's gone. The timing of it, I can see where you might see that. And I can even see the thing with the oil.
Right.
I don't necessarily think that's the case. And I will check out that poll by Reuters because everything I've seen, Trump's raised like $42 million over this impeachment nonsense. It's, it's been, speaking of, and I don't want to like skip, but I don't want to get into a big conversation about this.
He looked at both of us and just calmed us down right there.
I was like, But has the impeachment gone to the Senate yet?
No.
It still hasn't gone? Okay. So that we'll get to talk about, I guess, again in a few weeks. And I'm sure this Iran thing will carry on for a few weeks too.
So I didn't want to pull up a clip of what Brad said, so I want to make sure we're clear about what Brad said. He said when the impeachment goes to the Senate, he wants to make sure that these oligarchies from the right don't show their true colors and go to war and to distract. So you wasn't talking about from the other side. You was talking about the Republicans causing the war to distract people away from the impeachment.
The difference, what I'm talking about is I'm not talking about the Trump administration. I'm talking about the warmonger. I'm saying the John McCain side. I know he's no longer with
John
us.
McCain was a warmonger. And you got
absolutely.
And Pompeo's your Secretary of State and John Bolton's the Secretary of Defense. And you call John McCain a warmonger. No, I don't either. But he's still a warmonger, right? And he's still
but I think what you're saying is he wasn't necessarily talking about Trump. He was talking about that Republican establishment.
Okay.
Like John McCain.
To try to make him look bad is what I was saying.
So,
to try to pull him into, just like these people, your Jeff Flakes and people who've just served in the last couple of weeks, the Republican warmongers trying to make the administration look bad. Right, by pulling in another war.
I didn't understand it that way, but okay.
Yeah. So, anyway, one other thing just real quick, and I wanted to get it in here. We all know what McAfee is. The internet is, security. Is his name John McAfee?
John McAfee.
Did you all see the tweet that he made about this pill in China? Did y'all see that?
About what?
Brad's the one that showed it to me. I know Brad's seen it, but this is crazy. You'll find this insane. Can you find that tweet, Brad?
Yeah. John McAfee, who was the founder of all the McAfee security, all that stuff, billionaire. There's some weird stuff going on with him. He's kind of on the run it's almost like they're after him. Weird stuff, but he's a legit guy. I mean, he was, he had his name in the hat as president during the last election. He's not an idiot, and he's a I'm sure he's a billionaire. But he said the Chinese government has created a revolutionary drug called DYXJU. It has absolutely zero effects on physiology or consciousness. People behave normally. It has zero side effects except one. Once ingested, the urge to re-ingest approximately 24 hours later becomes extreme. And then after a few minutes, he posted again saying, for those, because a lot of people got on there and like, well, what does that mean? He said, for those who ask, what's the point? Imagine a government that could control a population using drugs, been done before, without having to deal with side effects or changes in society brought on by the drugs. That drug would be the most valuable substance on earth. Now, that is, that's something John McAfee said. It's obviously, I've not seen it in any publications or anything. But the thing that I thought was interesting, the reason I sent it to you, is if there's billionaires having discussions about these things, that it's being talked about, and I'm sure that we have the technology to do it. When I first read it, I didn't think much about it. And I was fooling around in the kitchen at the house, and the more I thought about it, it gave me cold chills. I mean, think about how powerful that would be.
So, my mind directly goes to how they're going to market this thing. Right? Like, how do you sell this to people? You're going to take this pill, and it's really not going to do anything for you, but they're not going to sell it that way, obviously. So, what do you sell it as?
Well, I think
you don't sell it.
No, you do sell it. You do. You seen it with Jenny Craig. No, seriously. Am I right?
Well, here's what I
mean, if they said, hey, if you take this pill along with this pill, you're going to lose 15 pounds. But this pill, they don't know that this pill don't do anything.
Here's what I think it would be. I'll use the U.S. as an example. People that are on welfare, some kind of social
government
service,
sure.
government assistance of some kind, said, look, you can have the government assistance or you have to have our health care, let's say more like a health care system. We'll give you free health insurance, but you have to take this pill. And then you have no choice.
Sure.
Like something like that. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. But I think, but we've seen how effective private industry can be, though. You know what I'm saying? With this DNA thing. And I can, if I was, let's say Jenny Craig. Okay, I got your DNA. Now, if you take this pill and this pill and this pill, you'll lose weight. And of course, this pill doesn't do anything except make you addicted to it. And you would take it without ever asking the second question, man, because you trust the name. You trust that brand.
So imagine, and we're talking about China,
sure,
as well, right?
Yeah, yeah. But I was just using that as China's Jenny Craig, whatever.
Right. I don't even know if this is going to be something with commercials and marketing. This might be something you're going to take it, or you're going to get it in a vaccination, or whatever the case is. But think about how powerful that would be if you had, we've done the opioid epidemic. We're still going with that. And you think about some of the people we've talked to that have talked about the mission became finding the next pill.
Yeah.
Right. Or the things that you would do to get the next pill. So imagine if you had, say, 30 million tweakers that were in their full capacity. Right. These weren't people walking down the side of the street that you could tell were drug induced. These were people that are sitting across from Jimmy Don doing loans. These are people standing beside you at the mines. Everybody's in their full capacity. Everybody's fine. But every one of those individuals knew that if they went one day without that pill, that they would go into
DTs.
Basically go into DTs needing that pill. What would that pill be worth? So if you think about China, that's with the, what's it called? The social credit score or whatever, where they judge people on their political views and whatever. And those things could determine if you get a loan or whatever. So say you had a universal health care in China or wherever, and you said, okay, you are going to sign up for this. You don't have to take this. You have a right not to opt into this. You can opt out, but you don't get your pill. You can support this thing here, right? If you show up at the community meeting and you poke your head up and talk about what the county attorney's doing, or I mean the county judge is doing, then you don't get your appeal for the week. How many people could you control? How easily would it be to control a population? I mean, it is absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe they put it into the water, something, they're not going to voluntarily say, here, you can take this, it does nothing for you, you're just going to get addicted to it. Nobody would take that, right?
Sure.
But maybe they, like you said, in a Jenny Craig, in something like this, and you start having these crazy withdrawals, and like, oh no, we've got the fix for you.
Right. As long as you go out there and dig this ditch, or as long as you go shoot this guy in the face, or whatever they want you to do.
Right, and the question of how much would it be worth? Okay, say, we've been talking just at a kind of local, just everyday people. Okay, think about politicians. Okay, if you had, how much control could you have over somebody if they knew you were either going to do this or say this or go this way or that way?
Oh, yeah.
Or we're cutting you off. What would you be willing to do?
Oh, I'm voting for whatever.
Which I don't think is much different than what we're in now as far as with the blackmail and those kind of things. But it's really, the more you think about it, it's absolutely terrifying.
But what it is the blackmail coming to light, right? Like, now everybody, it's accepted because, hey, man, I got to have that pill. I mean, what am I going to do?
Right. So you will justify it and do all kinds of mental gymnastics to figure out how to get that pill. And not to go in the weeds on here about something completely unrelated, but if you sit here and you say that now and you think, well, there is no way that I would do that, or if I knew that it was something that they were doing to have power control over me, I wouldn't do it, wouldn't be involved in that. So we've all got one of these phones sitting with us right now, right? Where were the phones made?
No idea.
China,
likely. Apple, yeah.
Okay, so, and I know there's things made other places, but I'm just for the sake of argument.
Yeah, China.
If the only place that you could get an iPhone was from China, and if they came out with the option and said, okay, here's the deal. You can opt out of this. You don't have to support China in these iPhones, but if you don't, you won't have access to Facebook, to Instagram, to Twitter, to anything on the internet. How many people do you think today in the United States of America would give up a crazy amount of liberties to not lose that?
No, and I used to laugh when I seen these memes about, you can own this home, but you have to turn off your phone and never look at it. And I was like, all right. But if it come down to it, man, like, it would be hard for me to go live off. Could you imagine going back to 1987?
Oh, no, man.
And not having your phone with you and know what's going on with everybody all the time?
I know, it's crazy.
It would be hard to do. Like, it really would. Because that dopamine that you get, you know, when you get a notification or a message or whatever, I'm used to getting that now.
Okay, so that brings me to my next point.
Here we go.
Now, all of us sitting in the room here, I'm 40. JD, you're 40,
yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy Don's 74. Well, he's close. So we grew up in the 80s,
yep.
right? So we grew up without this technology. It didn't faze us a bit.
Yep.
We have this technology now. We've lived in both worlds. But you just admitted that it controls you to some sense.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. So think about our children. They didn't know 1985, right? They didn't know big wheels and
dump trucks.
I mean, the most technology I remember from the 80s was Oregon Trail, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as the progression, just like bull and a frog, through society over years and years and years, how much control does the technology have, even admitting to us? And, you know, I'm somewhat of a pilgrim compared to most people, but I would be lying if I said that I don't depend on this phone to get information or to do a number of things. So with our children,
they've never been without it.
That's all they've known. They've never been without it.
Well,
like, we know we could survive and still won't give it up. If it has been part of your survival for your entire existence, then how much could you control somebody with shutting off the internet 20 years from now?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Like, right now, how much would you boys be willing to pay for your internet, your Wi-Fi?
Oh, yeah, man.
Like, I'm not sure, like, I would definitely pay more than I am now, you know what I mean? Like, admittedly, I know that. But to your point, you know, I have a teenage daughter, and she doesn't know anything except for life on Snapchat.
Yeah.
And I'm sure your daughter is around there with her.
Yeah.
But she drives me crazy taking selfies.
Listen.
All the time, always taking selfies.
We were at the house, we were talking about the New Year's Eve party.
Yeah.
And the Wi-Fi, and Brad was talking about, it's been kind of off here lately, like just not great.
Yeah.
So it was kind of hit and miss up there the other night, and these kids were freaking out because they couldn't check their Snapchat. They couldn't check their Instagram. It was crazy. I was like, put your phone down and enjoy it.
Right. But, I mean, we say that, but I enjoy being on my phone. I do. I enjoy it.
So another thing that I've noticed is, you know, even with our generation, and again, I'm comparing this to what's coming in the future. So with our generation and people that we went to school with, you didn't have the technology, but we'll get on Facebook and talk about everything going on in their life, right? You know, they'll say, oh, well, me and my husband's having problems and I'm doing this, and, you know, my kids flunked out of school, and all these things that most people wouldn't just put out on the internet. And we can laugh about it and say, whoa, that's
Oversharing.
Oversharing, right? As JD says, oversharing. That's way too much information. And we laugh about it. But if you are the youth coming up in this generation, and everything that you see is somebody posting about exactly how they feel that day, what's going on in their family, what's going on. I mean, I see this stuff in my distant family where you've got people having fights. And, you know, my sister and I and my brothers will talk about it and say, how in the world, like we would never, if me and my brother and sisters were having the biggest feud, if it was the Hatfields and McCoys, you would not see one piece of it on Facebook, right? But we know that. But for our kids, that's all that you see.
That's normal.
So what is the expectation in 10, 20, 30 years if everything is about you put your feelings out there, you tell everybody exactly what you're thinking every point of the day, you tell them where you're at, you have all these technologies. What is the end game?
Well, and not only that, as I look at it, we get so used to accepting these terms and agreements, right? When I talked about this last week with Apple, your iPhone, and Facebook even, you accept these terms and agreements. Who's not to say in the future when you're going for a medical exam or a medical procedure, whatever, you agree to something like, and you don't have no idea what you're agreeing to. But it looks just like the Apple agreement. Bam. And agree. Like, because that's what they've become accustomed to. They've become accustomed to agreeing to all these terms without realizing what they're agreeing to. And like I said, I'm just as guilty as anybody is. Right now, like I may have to sacrifice my first son. I don't know, you know.
And right, and you go in and you sign papers, you go in a hospital, you do something, and it's people that you trust. But you think about, if you look at the statistics of accidental deaths in America in any given year and see where medical accidents or malpractice rank on that list, but no, you don't ever question that.
This guy right here sells home. I mean, he gives home loans for a living. How many times, Jimmy Don, do you go, this paper right here says this? And they go, okay, what? And they write.
Here.
I can guarantee you right here. I'm just
if
guessing here, but you got to answer this. The one group of people that reads that are accountants, right? You've only got like 3 people on the planet that'll read that information.
Accountants, lawyers.
I'm guessing accountants and lawyers, yeah.
Yeah, those are the folks who generally read it. You'll be surprised, though, especially with lawyers, because they see that legal stuff all the time. Yeah. They just sign here. You can pretty well identify up front who these people are. And before they ever come in and sign anything, I email the whole package to them, let them so they can read it. So I don't have.
And I'm sure they do.
Yeah. The only time, just you asked that question, the only time it ever happened, I had a lawyer who was bipolar, and she told me that she was going to come in and read every single form. So she met me at the office at 8 a.m. I set her at the conference table, and I worked the whole day while she sat over there and read it. And she would ask me questions every once in a while, and she left at 5 when I left.
And a lot of these things, like I said, the things that I complain about that we give our liberties up to, but then I've been as guilty as anybody, is you pull that up and you click that box and you hit continue because there's so many things that we have to do on there.
It's just laziness, though, right? At the end of the day, we're just being lazy.
Well, and these things are done
so fast.
Right. And here's how it gets done, and this is the same way that it works in the government. Is everything is done in legal speak, which 80% of the population doesn't understand if they sit and read the whole thing anyway. I'm not saying people are stupid. What I'm talking about is how the way that we write in legal speak now is different than how the average American communicates on a daily basis. Would you agree with that?
Especially here in Appalachia.
So if you sit here and put 20 pages of something that a lawyer's written up, even if you sit there and read it, it's not all going to make sense.
Right. It's hard to read when you're not even comprehending what you're reading, right?
So what do you think that we have signed up for personally over the past 20 years on the internet? And what do you think in the future that our kids are going to sign up for? I don't know.
Well, I mean,
scary thought.
One last thing, though, and this is crazy, but have you ever been at the mall and seen they're giving away a car or something in the middle of the mall, and you put your name, your email address, your phone number, and you just whatever they ask for, and then you get these phone calls from these salespeople. You're like, how'd they get my number? Well, they probably got it from, you signed up trying to win a Mazda,
Yeah.
But we didn't read what that information was going to be used for, and again, it's the mining information all the time.
I don't know. I saw that tweet. Brad sent it to me, and I thought, man, what are the possibilities?
I was wrong. I didn't see this tweet. I just didn't recognize it was James McAfee.
Yeah. So, all right. So, crazy discussions. I mean, we've gone way over time, which is fine. If you want to, let's talk a little bit about the NFL football playoffs started this weekend. And, I want to send out a sympathy card to our boy Eric Beaudry.
I hope you're all right, brother.
Yeah, I hope you're all right, Eric, for your Patriots taking a loss. But, JD, I found it interesting. You had yesterday, the Patriots went down.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time the Patriots lost their first game in the playoffs. I mean, I know it's been a long time.
Well, they was even on the road the first round.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
no, they wasn't. They was home. But still playing the first round.
Yeah, playing in the first round at home. Got beat by the Titans. Then today, Minnesota beats New Orleans. Drew Brees goes down. And I did want to ask the question. I said, that you're great when you get beat and the whole world cheers.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, like Eric said it in here that one evening. He said 6 rings, baby.
Yeah, I'm not mad. 6 rings.
Yeah, 6 rings, baby. But do you think we're seeing, because really in the last, 10, 20 years, the Patriots have just kind of been there every year.
Well, I think what you're seeing is some of these rosters moved for the Patriots starting to catch up with them. Like, they've always been able to, I'm just going to say it right now. Belichick is the best to ever do it, ever. Best coach ever. And he's got his stats back it up, 6 rings. And he's always been able to go out and find these guys and make them play his type of ball and coach them to where they was in a position to win. And, they was in a position to win even yesterday. They just couldn't pull it off, which was what they've always been able to do. But, yeah, there's no denying their greatness. Tom Brady was going to go down as the GOAT. You can be a fan, you can't be a fan, but you can't make those numbers up. You just can't.
I never was there were a lot of Patriot haters out there, just because they were so good. I was never a Patriot hater. I wasn't necessarily a fan.
Right.
But I enjoy watching greatness.
Right, sure.
And Tom Brady, Belichick, the best to ever do it.
Ever.
Back on our day, Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Best to ever do it today. LeBron, Kobe,
sure.
Those guys, man, the best to ever do it. And you got AD out there in LA coming on. So just real quick, it's the playoffs, the NFL. I know you're a Chiefs fan.
Yes, sir.
They didn't have to play first round, right?
Nope, second round.
Second round.
Yep.
So do you have a Super Bowl pick? Do you think your Chiefs can win it all this year?
Oh, man, I think, honestly, with football, it's always been a game of inches, and we say that and we think, become short of a first down by a few inches, but it's not that. Sometimes it's a placing the hand on the shoulder pad or the ball bounces, an inch and you get the fumble recovery instead of the other guy. With the way the NFL is today and the product they're putting on the field, everybody's so evenly matched, and I think that's by design with the salary cap and things. I just don't know, Of course, my heart says Chiefs all the way, and I think we have the roster to do it and the coach to do it. But, I'm going to ride with the Chiefs, man, until whenever.
Brad, do you have an NFL pick? You don't watch a ton of NFL, so do you have a pick?
Well, I didn't even know until you all told me earlier that it was the playoffs. So I don't even know. I don't even know who's left.
So I will no longer talk to you. I will only speak to JD about the rest of this conversation. The
important stuff he comes to me for.
Yeah, I have to come to JD. All right, so do you think the hype with the Ravens and Lamar Jackson, do you think that's real? Do you think they have a shot to get there?
Yeah, they're definitely real. Like I said earlier, if you pay attention to trends, NFL is the same way. College football is the same way. If you've got teams that can play defense and run the football, then you've got a chance. Now, a lot of people do things with their running game. They throw the ball out of the backfield and things like that. It's just like a run. They mark it down as a pass. But all the teams that are left play good defense. They run the football. So
Like I
think everybody's left that can pull this thing out. Like Houston's coming to Kansas City next week, and I'm scared to death. But Tennessee beat New England. And, man, wait, Tennessee is built.
Dude, Travis Henry is a machine.
Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry.
But he is a freaking load is what he is,
He's
man.
a load, man. He was gaining 8 yards of carry last night. It was insane.
He would hit that second level and the defensive back's in front of him, and I was like, oh, get out of his way, man. You're going to get killed.
Yeah, I mean, I just didn't realize Travis Henry played for Tennessee back in the day.
Yeah,
Derrick
he played for Buffalo, too. Travis Henry did. But, Derrick Henry played at Alabama.
Well, Alabama, man.
And Mark Ingram plays for Buffalo, who's also another Alabama back.
Yeah. Crazy, man. I said they just absolutely. So, like I'm a Louisville hater, so you kind of hate to pull for Lamar, but it's greatness, man. I mean, he is phenomenal. And I've got Amy has family in Baltimore.
But you're going for the Chiefs, right?
No, I will not because of your hate for Trump. I can't.
I don't hate Trump. I'm willing to critique him.
Whatever, JD. You have to come to the realization that you hate Trump as much as we love him. So it's a lot of those arguments we're never going to win.
That's true.
So I did have to give Jimmy Don some kudos here tonight, and I'm going to switch that. Now, I'm not an NFL fan. I do watch a lot of college football. I love college football. But even though Jimmy Don came in last place in our football picks this year, he is the only one that had the finale prediction. He's still got a chance to win it all with Clemson.
We need to make those predictions.
JD picked Georgia.
Yeah.
I picked Alabama. And Jimmy Don picked Clemson. So he's the only one still in it there. So we've given him a hard time for the last few months.
Deservedly so.
Your picks were terrible.
Props.
Yeah,
so I want to take the Tigers in the championship game.
Okay. Yeah. All right, Dan Duncan. It was Bill Walton. It was Bill Walton I saw pick the Tigers. But who do you really think? I mean, after watching the 2 playoff games, look, Ohio State was legit.
Yes.
And Clemson, it was a good game.
They weathered the storm.
Game, but weather the storm, they won. LSU, Oklahoma really was no match for LSU. No. You know, you're going to have 2 pretty high-powered offenses and 2 really good defenses. I cannot wait to watch that game.
Do not write off Clemson, I'm telling you, just because they're showing against Ohio State. Because Ohio State, like you said, they're legit. That's a legit football team. And don't write them off. But I'm rolling with SEC. I'm rolling with LSU.
Yeah, I'm going to LSU too, even though I picked Clemson.
Oh my God, I'm going with Clemson.
I'm a total SEC homer, man.
SEC, here we go.
Yeah. Well, and I think LSU too. Like, I think they're really that good.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're talking about, what's his name, the quarterback for Clemson?
Sunshine, baby.
Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence, yeah.
Best quarterback in the nation.
He's phenomenal, man.
He's not lost a game as starting quarterback, right? No. And they've won a couple national titles, so I don't know how you count them out. But, yeah, I think LSU. But one question I do have on the bowl games, on the bowl results, the SEC, you know, obviously did extremely well and finished, 7-2 so far, not counting the last game.
That's unreal.
It's crazy, man.
So that was a lot better than any. I mean, second place would be, I guess, the Pac-12 that was 4-3. So this will rile up a lot of my family and friends that are Oklahoma Sooner fans. But how long are we going to keep pretending that the Big 12 is still relevant?
Yeah,
I mean, they were 1-5, and Oklahoma gets it, and it's kind of the same
embarrassed
thing.
Is what they
got.
I
mean,
dude.
They get in, and it's not even got destroyed. They just didn't even look like that they were in the same level of football.
They were.
Well, and it goes back to something Stoops said after the Belt Bowl. Is he said, look, people really don't understand what it's like to have to play in the SEC.
Right.
To go in and week out against all those teams.
And this is a guy that came from Florida State who knows what competition looks like, you know.
Yeah.
But it's just a different beast.
Yeah, man. I mean, because he won a national championship as defensive coordinator.
I think the Big 12 finished 1-5.
Yeah. What did the Big 10 do? Have you got it there in front of you?
4-5.
They're usually pretty solid. The Big 10 is,
but the Big 10 historically, I'm not saying there's not been some good teams, but it's kind of, you see the same thing. Like, I remember,
they need to catch
what was it, like
2005
or 2006, and they were talking all year that this Ohio State team was the best team to ever take the field, and Florida had like a couple losses and was a huge underdog, and they beat them like 45-3 or something like that.
I feel like Ohio State gets the Notre Dame treatment for some reason.
They do. Ohio State gets that treatment a lot,
and
And it's
But now,
deservedly so.
let me be clear.
They're
This
legit.
Ohio State team was very good.
They were legit.
Yeah, I thought this year they were a lot better.
Some of
than,
their past teams have not been up to par what people were giving them credit for.
Yeah, they got where they got because their name's Ohio State. Guys, it was a hell of a show. That was fun. Y'all, anything else you guys want to throw in before we wrap this bad boy up?
I've got a really good buzz now.
We could tell during your talk on Iran that you were buzzing.
Come on,
we could
man.
tell with your takes.
I can hear the silence over there, Jimmy.
I say it with love, JD. All right, guys, so we'll wrap this one up. From myself, from JD, from Brad. No matter how bad your week's been, no matter how bad your day's going, if you just add bourbon, it always gets a little bit better. Talk to y'all next week.